everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel at the anchor desk with my partner Clark Kellogg, bringing you the 2K Sports Season Preview Show. Here are the top 5 teams in the nation as we head into the season. The Kansas Jayhawks come in as the number 1 ranked team, followed by Duke, Kentucky, Arizona, and Pittsburgh. So Clark, what's your initial impression of our top 5 teams?
I like the potential of each of these teams. I think all of them have a chance to win the championship this year. They're poised, loaded with talent, hungry, and very eager to prove themselves this coming year. I think each of these teams would be a dream to coach.
Kansas is in the catbird seat to start the season, sitting pretty in the number 1 spot. They had a nice finish to the year, but it ended with a disappointing loss in the regional final.
They were so close to the Final Four they could taste it. And the memory of that Elite 8 loss should be all the motivation they need this year to work just that little bit harder. We'll see if they can get over the hump this time.
Duke is in the number 2 spot. They had a terrific record last season, finishing with 22 wins.
That total identified them as a team to be reckoned with in college basketball. I won't be surprised to see them reach or surpass that total again this season.
Kentucky comes in as number 3. Their tournament last year came to an abrupt end with a loss in the second round, Clark.
It can be demoralizing for a team not to get past the first weekend of the tournament. They've had all summer to forget about that loss and instead build on the positives from last season.
Arizona starts the year as the 4th-ranked team. They'll be trying to build on last season's regular season conference championship.
No matter how many different pieces they have this year as compared to last, they'll go into this season with the attitude of we're the champ, and if you want the crown, you've got to go through us.
Pittsburgh is the number 5 team. Their total of 29 wins last season was remarkable.
Matching that record is going to be a challenge, but they've simply got to forget about the past and get to the business of winning games right here, right now.
Here's the next group of teams in our preseason top 25. What's your impression of that set of teams?
These teams might not be in the top 10, but you better not overlook them. I would venture to say that several of these teams will win their conference and surprise people in the tournament.
The Maryland Terrapins, the number 12 team, have been talked about quite a bit as we head into the season. They're in one of the power conferences, Clark. Do you think they'll be able to withstand the tough schedule?
They're ranked highly now, but they're going to have to play a lot of tough games in that conference, and if they're not consistently playing at a high level, we could see them slip a bit.
The North Carolina Tar Heels, the number 11 team, have also generated a lot of interest. This school has developed a reputation for having some of the most rabid fans in college hoops.
Walking into their building is going to be a tough proposition for a lot of their opponents. They can get that place rocking, and I wouldn't be shocked if they lose very few, if any, games at home this season.
Okay, Clark, let's take a look at the teams that close out the preseason top 25 poll. How about this list?
The difference between this group and the previous group is depth, plain and simple. They can match up with anybody at the start of the game, but due to a short bench, they just won't be able to keep up through the end.
The Florida Gators, the number 16 team, could be one to watch. They're the defending champs, but they're going to have a tough road to hoe to hold on to their crown.
At least they're still there in the poll. That means a lot of the experts still think this team is going to be strong. I'd like to see what kind of start they get off to before I decide whether they have the ability to repeat.
The Illinois Fighting Illini, the number 24 team, are also worth keeping an eye on. The experts are having a hard time classifying this team because they have such versatile players.
What I think will be one of their strengths is their ability to adapt to their opponent's style of play. They'll be able to come at you in a lot of different ways, and I think the coaching staff is going to take full advantage of that chameleon style.
We've come to the part of the show when we look at the top players in the nation and unveil the list of our preseason All-American. There before you are the 5 first-team All-Americans as we begin the season, and what a list it is. What's your take on the first teamer at the top of the list, Clark?
Ball is a force to be reckoned with, Greg. He exploits every opponent weakness and then uses his skill to dominate games. No matter what, he'll find a way to get the job done and lead his team to victory.
As for our next first-teamer, Duke, he is more than willing to go into battle with him, Clark.
Talent really is an elite talent. That's a given.
There's plenty to like about him as a player. He's got that deadly combination of smarts and physical skills that makes him so difficult to defend. A coach's mentality in the body of a world-class athlete. Any questions as to why he's on the list?
Next up is a player that's drawing comparisons to some of the all-time college greats. The Kansas Jayhawks are fortunate to have him in their corner.
Jackson is a first-teamer without a doubt. He has such versatility. He can take it and rake it, get down the court with the ball and make plays. He'll be a nearly impossible matchup for their opponent.
Let's move on to a player who's worked very hard to earn his spot on the list. The Duke Blue Devils can depend on a solid effort from him each and every night.
Giles is the anchor of his team, and if they're going to the promised land, he's the one that's going to lead them there. We always talk about the guys with great hands. Well, he's got great feet. I love those happy feet. There are few players in the nation with better footwork than him, and that's what allows him to always be in the right position, whether it comes to rebounding or finding space for an open shot.
And finally, we have another superb player to round out the first team. The Maryland Terrapins will probably get used to seeing him make the impossible look ordinary.
Stone already has opposing coaches drawing up game plans designed to stop him, but it won't matter what they come up with. Give him too much room and he'll burn you off the dribble. Or play him tight and watch him find a teammate for an easy hoop. One way or the other, he's unstoppable.
Now let's move on to the second team All-Americans. Not such a bad list, huh? These elite players all have the potential to have historic seasons if the right pieces fall into place. The Kansas Jayhawks have built their team around this young man's talent. And I'd say that's a pretty good idea.
Mason was a very hard player to leave off the first team. If I had to pick some frontrunners for the Player of the Year award, he would be right there on the list. I've seen him take over games even when he isn't scoring 30. There are some great scorers among these All-Americans, and he's one of them, but he does much more than score.
Our next player is a tremendous talent in his own right. Maryland is in for a treat if he can pull it all together and have a great year.
Number 2 is someone you could look at as last season progressed and see his improvement on a weekly basis. I have no doubt he belongs on this All-American team, and I think the sky's the limit for him this season.
We can expect to see some amazing performances out of him all year long. The Villanova Wildcats are looking for a lot of production from him, and they probably won't be disappointed.
Hart has terrific skill in so many facets of the game. It isn't out of the realm of possibility to say that he might even be a little bit underrated. I know it seems far-fetched to say that about a preseason All-American pick, but I'm not sure people realize just what a huge year he's in for, Greg.
Our next All-American may have designs on the first team by the end of the season. Pittsburgh has one of the most reliable go-to guys in the country in him.
Young was one of the first players that came to mind when I was thinking of the top 10 players in the nation. The success of his team rests directly on his shoulders, and I believe he has the ability to take them all the way to the title.
And here we have the final player on our list of All-Americans, the Kansas Jayhawks. Know who their fan favorite is going to be this year?
Azubuike is last but not least on the All-American list. His upside is higher than a lot of the other guys here because he has so much raw ability. He could jump to the first team this year if he harnesses all that ability into the complete package.
All right, Clark, that should do it for us here in the studio. For myself and all of us here at 2K Sports, thanks for watching our season preview. Enjoy all the college hoops action to come.